Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, council members. My name is Simone Reba, and I own a property at 37898 Eagle Lane in Selbyville in the Mallard Lakes community. First, thank you to Councilman Hudson and Mr. Lawson for meeting with us in May to discuss Mallard Lakes' long history of flooding and what must be done to protect our community. Today, I want to go on the record with the council to restate our discussion and to ask for your help to move solutions forward. Mallard Lakes is a 477-unit condominium community near Fenwick Island. During Hurricane Sandy, DENREC confirmed our community had some of the worst flooding in Delaware, so severe that FEMA threatened to pull flood insurance for all of Sussex County, which would devastate property values and the local economy. More than a decade later, we remain at risk with no significant flood mitigation completed. We know real solutions aren't cheap or easy. At least 6 buildings may need to be elevated at least $500,000 each. But first, we need a clear plan, a civil engineering feasibility study with the Army Corps of Engineers that the Army Corps of Engineers estimates could cost about $500,000 to $1 million. There are federal funding options, though, the good news is. One is the Army Corps' Continuing Authority Program, number 205. In 2016, the Corps deemed Mallard Lake eligible for program funding based on the study of multiple properties in the Little Assawoman Bay area. The funding is available, and we can secure, if we can secure a non-federal sponsor, which has to be a government entity, who would provide a 50% cost share for the engineering study and a 35% cost share for construction. The other option is a broader Army Corps Inland Bay study covering all of Sussex County's Inland Bay areas. While promising, it's in the early stages. In best case, the study would not be completed until 2030, with construction not beginning until 2040. And there's always a risk of delay or cancellation. The study would potentially require a 10% cost share to the non-federal partner. Mr. Lawson noted the county's plan to rely on the Inland Bay study recommendations because it's broader and it has a lower sponsor cost share. We understand that logic, but waiting another 10 to 15 years leaves Mallard Lakes vulnerable while federal funding dwindles. We respectfully ask the county to reevaluate the Inland Bay study during the 2027 budget cycle. If it stalls, please budget about $500,000 for the CAP 205 feasibility study for Mallard Lakes instead. If the Inland Bay study moves forward, we ask you to plan for the study and construction funding in future county capital budgets so our community and the county finally gets the protections we need. I prepared a handout with more details about our flood history and funding options. Thank you for your time and support. Next, some longtime Mallard Lakes residents want to share their perspectives on how Mallard Lakes has changed over the years.
Thank you very much. Next is Jackie Henry. Good morning.
Now that I can see you, good morning.
I know the feeling.
Sometimes challenging, right? My name is Jacqueline Henry. You can call me Jackie. And I am only speaking here as a concerned homeowner. I first had the Mallard Lakes experience in the 1980s when my husband rented a unit on the lake, on the first lake from a friend of his that he worked with. My family spent a week at Mallard Lakes, but I thought about that community for a whole year afterwards. I asked my husband to buy a little unit for me and our daughters, and he, without hesitation, refused. He told me that if I wanted a place at Mallard Lakes, I would have to buy it myself. I accepted that personal challenge. I was a young mother of 2. I had a small job as a facilitator for Weight Watchers that did not pay much. So I took on substitute teaching jobs and home instruction assignments. Sometimes I worked 7 days a week. I worked at night. But I always got my kids on the school bus in the morning and was there in the afternoon when they got off said buses. And I saved. Finally, in 1991, I bought my unit, number 465, and fewer than 15 years later, I had it paid off, all on a teacher's salary. Unit 465 is my little piece of heaven. When I first owned it, my girls could play in the back of the house. The grounds workers could mow the grass because the surface supported the heavy machines. The ground was dry, but lush and green. And there was a hedge of rough vegetation that grew along the shoreline. Every rainstorm was not a source of concern. The tide came and went in a beautiful way, easy in and easy out. It was glorious. In time, I began to realize that my little bit of heaven was an investment. But also the path ahead did not seem as easy. The tides of the Salt Lake are no longer so easy in and easy out. The backyard has become a soggy mishmash that many times defies a lawnmower. And if it is dry, the soil is so ruined that parts of it cannot grow grass. And I can see that the water not only gets closer, but stays closer. My little piece of heaven has become a source of worry. When I am away from Mallard, an anticipated rain event results in a flurry of telephone calls to a trusted neighbor to find out what's going on in my backyard. How close is the water behind my unit? And while some may worry about insurance rates and water damage and mold, I worry about losing everything I have spent over 30 years lovingly protecting as a gift to my children, melting down to nothing before I even get a chance to gift it. So, you might be asking yourselves, what exactly does this woman want?
Ms. Reba, I'm going to have to, or Ms. Henry, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up, please.
Yes. I ask myself the same question. Jackie, what are you asking of these people? The answer is simple. I am asking for hope. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, next is Bruce Henry. Morning.
President, Council. These two ladies are a tough act to follow. Yeah, one that can...
Excuse me, your name and address, please, before you speak.
I'm Bruce Henry. I'm the gentleman who refused to buy a unit for my wife. I also say I'm very proud of her, for what she's been able to do. I'm going to take a mid-road, if you would, and instead of talking about all the governmental issues, et cetera, or on a very personal level, I just want to share kind of a mid-range kind of perspective of the community, okay, and rising waters. I have a list of bullets that I'm going to just go through very, very quickly, so before the light changes. In terms of the community itself, okay, like my wife, okay, there are many personal stories, okay, but with all these stories, there's a common thread. We all love Mallard Lakes. It's a primary home for many. It's skewed towards senior citizens, with many of them being full-time residents. These are two-story, multi-unit condos. They're a source of financial security for a number of folks. And they're certainly a source of happiness and pride for many, including us. Mallard Lake homeowners are vested and invested in our communities. So that's just an overview of the community itself, a very broad brush. But the issue at hand is rising water, okay? And I want to talk about the impact to date. Now, Jackie has hit on some of that. Simone has touched on some of that. But in simple terms, we're talking about tidal water and its creep towards our homes, loss of shorelines. Grassy areas adjacent to the tidal lake are becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. Grass and wetlands are devolving into mudflats. Invasive phragmite, okay, it's creeping along the tidal lakes. And our lake views are being blocked. Now, when you have a community called Mallard Lakes, that doesn't work very well. The impact of the water incursion over time. Property values probably drop with a potential domino effect to adjacent communities. There will be a dramatic cost increase to and even cancellation of flood insurance policies. There will be a significant financial impact, especially if FEMA is disbanded. Homeowners potentially displaced from their homes and the possible loss of homes or occupancy denied. Now we're to mitigation, which is what Simone was talking about, Jackie was talking about. That mitigation is to be determined, and part of that probably rests with you as a council. Assessments, options have to be considered, permitting, and funding. We'll need your help. And what I'll say to you is something that Geoffrey Chaucer, who was a poet back in the Middle Ages, okay, he said, or what was attributed to him, time and tide wait for no man. In today's vernacular, I'd say, let's not procrastinate or delay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up, Kevin Conlon. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Is there anyone that didn't sign up for public comment?